Have you ever looked at two people, one Vietnamese, one Chinese, and wondered, they seem so similar, yet there's something different about them? It's a question many travelers, historians, and even locals have quietly asked for generations. China and Vietnam share more than just a border. They share thousands of years of history, trade, migration, and even wars. Their languages carry echoes of one another. Their cuisines overlap in flavors. Their philosophies often mirror the same ancient roots. Yet, despite all these similarities, the Vietnamese and Chinese people are distinct in their culture, values, habits, and even how they view the world. Today, we'll explore 10 fascinating differences between Vietnamese and Chinese people, the kind that go beyond the surface appearances and reveal deeper truths about who they are and what shaped them. Stay with me till the end, because the final difference might completely change how you see both nations forever. Number 1. Language. Language is more than just a tool for communication. It's a living mirror of a people's soul. It tells us where they've been, what they've fought for, and how they see themselves in the world. When you listen to Vietnamese and Chinese being spoken, they might sound similar at first. Both rise and fall with tones that can completely change a word's meaning. But listen a little longer, and you'll begin to feel the deep cultural distance between them. Two melodies shaped by two very different journeys. The Chinese language, especially Mandarin, is built on characters, not letters. Each character is like a tiny picture, carrying layers of meaning that stretch back thousands of years. Reading or writing Chinese feels almost like touching history itself, every stroke connecting the present to ancient dynasties and poets. It's a script of continuity, order, and heritage. Vietnamese, however, took a different path. Centuries ago, it was written with Chinese characters too, a sign of China's influence during its long rule over Vietnam. But as Vietnam sought its own voice, the people created Chu Nom, a writing system that bent Chinese characters to fit Vietnamese sounds. Later, under French influence, they embraced the Latin alphabet, adding special marks to capture tones. The result? A unique blend, Asian in sound, Western in form. When you read Vietnamese today, it looks familiar to English eyes, yet its rhythm sings a completely different tune. This transformation wasn't just about changing letters. It was about reclaiming identity. China chose to preserve its ancient script. Vietnam chose to reinvent its own. And through that choice, both nations told the world who they truly are. Number 2. Cultural roots, Confucian order versus local adaptation. Culture shapes how people think, love, and live, and few philosophies have shaped East Asia as deeply as Confucianism. Born in China more than 2,000 years ago, it taught that society thrives when everyone knows their place, respects their elders, and honors harmony over conflict. These values didn't stop at China's borders. They flowed into neighboring lands, including Vietnam, leaving deep marks that still show today. In China, Confucianism became the foundation of civilization. It guided emperors, families, and even classrooms. Respect for authority and the social hierarchy was not just a suggestion. It was the moral backbone of life. Children learned early that parents were to be obeyed, teachers revered, and rulers respected. This deep sense of order gave Chinese society stability for centuries. Even today, you can feel it in how people interact, the politeness, the restraint, and the quiet discipline that runs beneath daily life. Vietnam, however, absorbed these ideas in its own way. While Confucianism arrived through Chinese influence, the Vietnamese didn't simply copy it. They blended it with their local traditions, Buddhism, and community spirit. In the small villages of Vietnam, life was less about strict hierarchy and more about collective cooperation. Elders were respected, yes, but decisions were often made together, guided by a sense of shared belonging. This gave Vietnamese society a slightly softer edge, one that balanced order with warmth. Where Chinese Confucianism built pyramids of hierarchy, Vietnam built circles of community. Both systems valued harmony, but one leaned on authority, while the other leaned on togetherness. And that subtle difference, to order versus cooperation, continues to shape how both peoples live, lead, and relate to one another even today. Number 3. National character, the giant and the survivor. Every nation develops a personality, a kind of collective soul shaped by its struggles, triumphs, and the stories it tells about itself. When we look at China and Vietnam, we see two neighbors bound by geography, yet molded by vastly different journeys. If China is the giant of Asia, Vietnam is its survivor, smaller, humbler, but fiercely unbreakable. For thousands of years, China stood at the center of its own universe. It called itself the Middle Kingdom, believing it was the heart of civilization surrounded by smaller states. This sense of greatness built confidence, even pride, that can still be felt in modern China today. The people see themselves as carriers of an ancient legacy, guardians of traditions that have lasted through countless dynasties. That continuity gives Chinese identity a sense of authority and permanence. Vietnam's path, however, has always been one of resilience. Wedged between powerful empires, it faced repeated invasions from China, France, and later the United States. Yet, time and again, it refused to break. The Vietnamese spirit was forged in the fires of resistance. Their victories were not about conquering others, but about defending their right to exist. That history left deep emotional roots. While Chinese pride often springs from civilization and scale, Vietnamese pride comes from endurance and recovery. The Vietnamese smile carries quiet strength. Their progress feels grounded in humility. So, if China's character speaks of power maintained, Vietnam's speaks of freedom earned. One looks back and sees a long line of emperors and inventions. The other looks back and sees centuries of survival against the odds. Both stories are inspiring, but they show two very different ways a nation can find its greatness. Number 4. Family and social values, the web of relationships. Family is the backbone of both societies, but how family functions reveals deep cultural contrasts. In China, the traditional family structure is highly hierarchical. There's a clear chain of respect. Parents command, children obey. Decisions often rest with elders, and ancestral worship remains a core tradition. In Vietnam, family is equally sacred, but relationships feel more horizontal than vertical. Children still respect their parents deeply, but families often operate more like teams than chains of command. Vietnamese parents, especially mothers, tend to show affection openly, hugging, feeding, and doting on children, something less common in traditional Chinese households. Another key difference lies in gender roles. In traditional China, men were seen as decision-makers and women were expected to focus on home life. In Vietnam, though patriarchal values existed, women historically played strong roles. From warriors like Trung Trac and Trung Nhi, the Trung sisters who led a rebellion against China, to modern-day female entrepreneurs and politicians. So while both cultures honor family, Vietnam's warmth and shared resilience give it a more personal touch, compared to China's structured hierarchy rooted in Confucian ideals. Number 5. Food culture. Food is memory. It's the way a nation speaks without words, through flavor, aroma, and ritual. When we compare the cuisines of Vietnam and China, it's easy to see shared roots: rice, noodles, soup, tea, and the delicate balance between sweet, sour, salty, and spicy. But look closer, and you'll find that while their ingredients often overlap, the soul of their cooking tells two very different stories. In China, food is an art of depth and variety. Every region has its own personality. The fiery dishes of Sichuan, the sweetness of Shanghai, the richness of Cantonese dim sum, the bold northern noodles of Beijing. Chinese cooking celebrates abundance. The idea that a meal is not just about eating, but about showing prosperity, family unity, and respect for guests. A Chinese banquet table is like a painting of colors and textures, carefully arranged to impress both the eye and the heart. Vietnamese cuisine, by contrast, feels like a gentle whisper of balance. Meals are lighter, fresher, and often simpler in preparation. Where Chinese dishes rely on sauces, oils, and deep frying, Vietnamese dishes lean on fresh herbs, lime, chili, and fish sauce. Flavors that feel alive and refreshing. Think of pho with its clear broth and delicate herbs, or goi kuan, the translucent spring rolls that seem to hold sunshine within them. Even in the act of eating, the difference shows. The Chinese feast to celebrate success. The Vietnamese meal is to share connection. One expresses joy through grandeur, the other expresses warmth through simplicity. In the end, both cuisines remind us that food is not just nourishment, it's history, emotion, and identity served on a plate. One celebrates power, the other, peace. Number 6. Religion and spirituality. Temples and ancestors. Both peoples are deeply spiritual, but express that spirituality differently. In China, you'll find Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism blending together, often in the same temple. Many Chinese practice what's called the Three Teachings, honoring ancestors while seeking harmony with the universe through meditation or rituals. Vietnam's spirituality, though influenced by these same traditions, has a more earthy and personal tone. Alongside Buddhism, there's a strong sense of folk religion, the worship of village gods, nature spirits, and national heroes. Visit a Vietnamese home and you might see a small altar with photos of ancestors, fruit offerings, and burning incense, a quiet daily ritual of remembrance. In China, ancestor worship also exists, but often on grander scales, with elaborate rituals during festivals like Qingming. In short, Chinese spirituality often looks upward, toward cosmic balance and moral order. Vietnamese spirituality looks inward, toward gratitude, memory, and home. 7. Attitude toward authority and independence. This difference runs deep, shaped by history itself. Chinese people have lived for millennia under large, centralized empires. Order and unity were essential to survival. That history fostered a culture where authority is respected and collective harmony outweighs individual expression. Vietnam, however, spent much of its history resisting foreign domination, including 1,000 years of Chinese rule. That legacy left a deep mark, a fierce sense of independence. Even today, you'll find that Vietnamese people value self-reliance and adaptability. They're pragmatic and resilient, qualities born from decades of rebuilding after wars and colonialism. This is why in social behavior the Chinese may appear more formal and rule-oriented, while the Vietnamese may seem more flexible, spontaneous, even daring. It's not rebellion, it's survival. So while the Chinese ideal might be order through harmony, the Vietnamese ideal might be freedom through unity. Number 8. Work ethic and daily life. The pace of progress. Both nations are hardworking, but the rhythm of that work tells two different stories. In China, the drive for success often feels systematic and collective. There's a sense of national purpose. Families push children to excel, and individuals strive to contribute to the country's rise. The phrase 996 culture means working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week, became a symbol of China's intense work ethic. In Vietnam, the work culture is also strong, but more practical and balanced. People value hard work, yes, but they also value family time, food, and social life. It's less about perfection, more about perseverance. Walk through the streets of Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City, and you'll see it. Vendors laughing as they serve noodles, workers sharing tea on breaks, life flowing at a pace that feels human. It's a different kind of productivity, one that balances survival with joy. If Chinese work culture is about reaching the top, Vietnamese work culture is about getting through each day together. Number 9. Aesthetic and art. Art is a window into the soul of a culture. It speaks volumes about how people see the world and express their deepest values. In China, art has always been a celebration of grandeur and symbolism. From the sweeping curves of ancient calligraphy to the majestic scale of imperial architecture, Chinese art invites the viewer to awe in its immensity and depth. Palaces like the Forbidden City were built not just as homes for emperors, but as symbols of cosmic order, where every structure followed the principles of harmony, balance, and power. The Great Wall, with its winding stretch over the mountains, is both a protective barrier and a monument to endurance and authority. These grand symbols of China's imperial past continue to define its art today. A sense of pride, strength, and deep cultural continuity that is visually striking. In contrast, Vietnamese art embraces a different spirit, simplicity and intimacy, whether it's the soft brush strokes of a watercolor painting or the vibrant depictions of rural life in folk art. Vietnamese art tends to capture the everyday beauty of life. It's a celebration of connection, the bond between the people and the land. Vietnamese art often portrays serene rural landscapes, small villages, or scenes of daily life, offering a sense of peacefulness and closeness to nature. This difference in artistic vision also extends to architecture and clothing. While Chinese architecture emphasizes scale and formality, think of the imperial grandeur of the Forbidden City. Vietnamese architecture is functional and communal. Pagodas, stilt houses, and the narrow tube homes of Hanoi that reflect practicality born from necessity. Even in their traditional attire, the difference stands out. Chinese kipaos and hanfu celebrate elegance and luxury, while Vietnam's ao dai, with its flowing, modest form, speaks of grace through simplicity. Both are beautiful, but while Chinese art seeks to impress, Vietnamese art seeks to connect. Number 10. Modern identity. Finally, we arrive at the modern day, where the two nations' paths, though intertwined, have diverged dramatically. China stands as a global power, industrial, technological, and political. Its people navigate a fast-changing world while balancing tradition with ambition. Vietnam, meanwhile, is an emerging star, rapidly developing but holding tight to its sense of humility and harmony. This shows in how both societies handle change. Chinese society is increasingly urban, fast-paced, and focused on competition. Success is often measured by career and wealth. Vietnam, though modernizing quickly, still treasures community ties. A good life isn't just about money, it's about peace, family, and self-respect. And perhaps that's the most defining difference of all. China seeks greatness. Vietnam seeks contentment. Both are beautiful in their own ways. At the end of the day, the Vietnamese and Chinese people are connected by more than what divides them. They share centuries of history, migration, philosophy, and food. They've influenced each other deeply, like two trees whose roots intertwine underground, even as their branches grow in different directions. Understanding their differences isn't about choosing one over the other. It's about appreciating how culture evolves, how geography, struggle, and belief shape who we are. So the next time you meet someone from Vietnam or China, look beyond appearances. Listen to their stories. Notice their warmth, their humor, their quiet strength. You might discover that while they walk different paths, both lead to something universal: the human desire for identity, belonging, and meaning. And that's what truly connects us all. So, here's a question for you. What's the most surprising cultural difference you've discovered between two countries, and how did it change the way you see the world? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Asian culture, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep exploring the world one story at a time. Thank you for watching.